Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Quantum Success Show, where you can get your information and inspiration to create your desires. And I have a true legend in the personal development industry with me. He is none only than the amazing John Gray, which you probably have read his book. If you haven't, you've probably been under a rock. He's got many books. And it's from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And that book absolutely changed, I know, so many people's lives in the way we look at relationships. So John, I am so thrilled that you're here today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
I'm really excited to talk with you. I am in TLC with you. And I remember one of my first meetings with you, you were having a discussion. This is how I'll always remember you. You were having discussion with lots of men and women around a table, and you were talking about sex, and you were talking about all different aspects of sex. And I just loved just the way you were from a scientific perspective, but there's no hiding anything with you. It's just you say things how it is, and from research and for, what women love and what men love. And your honesty and your realness has always been something that I've appreciated about you. So,
well, thank you so much. It's definitely hard to contain myself. I'm pretty transparent. I'm safe with who I am.
That's amazing. And it's a true inspiration to others. So thank you for that.
Since you mentioned that, about 35 years ago, I used to have a lot of anxiety. I give a lot of public presentations, and I would have nervousness and anxiety a lot. I mean, my first talk at 19 years old on transcendental meditation, I actually fainted in front of the audience. I had so much anxiety. They thought I had died. It was really uncomfortable. And, a big shift in my own life was, I was thinking, this is just too painful to be a teacher in front of audiences, although I wanted to be. And then I read an article with John Lennon where he explained why the Beatles stopped touring, which is they had so much anxiety before performances. It was like crazy. And so I thought, okay, at least I'm on the right track. I still have anxiety, but they clearly were doing their life's purpose. And sometimes if we have a lot of fear, we think that's not our purpose. We must be doing the wrong thing. And actually, it's the opposite. Sometimes if something's really important to your soul to express, you're going to have more anxiety if you feel that you're not going to be able to do that successfully. And then after about 10 years, all my anxiety went away. Gone. I have 35 years, no anxiety at all, totally at ease. And I realized that anxiety comes from always rehearsing, trying to be something, remember how to be, as opposed to just being. And that really freed me. And I just, there's a whole thing about comparison. Actually, it was at the recent TLC, somebody gave a quote, which was, comparing is the thief of joy. And so I realized in my own life, I can be the best me, and that's all I can be. And I don't try to compare myself with anybody else. So I can't fail. I can just be the best me, so there's no fear. And some people will like me, some people won't. It turns out I'm likable.
Very likable. That's awesome. My husband and I did our first couples retreat this past weekend, and I could see him kind of being very anxious and kind of wanting, and I said, what is it that you're needing right now? Because you seem a little, and he goes, I just want to give value, and I just want to make sure that I'm, and I said, all of what we're talking about, all of what we're sharing is inside of you. It's how we live our couple. That's how we live our lives. And I could just see, it just came over him, this just peace. And the whole entire weekend, he was in that space of exactly what you're talking about. He doesn't have to be something he's not. He doesn't have to be pretending he's something that he isn't. He doesn't have to try to perform or, he just gets to be him and show up knowing that we're just talking about what we live. Right?
That's exactly what my experience as well. I just talk about what I live. And often people say, well, do you prepare? Do you have your speech laid out? And I say, well, I wrote a book. I've written 25 books. So
25 books.
It's not like I'm just standing in front of an audience and just saying what I think. I've done a lot of thought about how to live my life and writing my books and so forth. So it's well researched. It's my own experience. So it's in there. I just have to be authentically me. And I don't compare myself, and I'm not a perfect speaker, yet people think I do a wonderful job. I compare myself only to me, and that makes such a difference. And I always want to be better, and I know to be better, you're going to make mistakes. That's another thing I've learned. People forget mistakes. You just keep moving on.
Absolutely. Well, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, because you have one of the most successful franchises in the personal development industry. And as far as books, I mean, the whole entire Men Are From Mars, Women Are For Venus. I mean, it literally, it's in the culture. We see it mentioned in movies and TV shows, and most people have, if they've ever read a personal development book, yours is probably one of the top 5 that someone has read. And, you know, for you to have 25 books and to have an empire that was even created around Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, like what would you say was the thing that really propelled that forward in, if you were going to say what a quality of creating quantum success was for you, would it be authenticity? Would it be, you know, being out of comparison? What would that quality be for you?
Well, for sure, it's authenticity. And what comes when you're not afraid is you follow your impulses inside. And opportunities come. You know, some of my friends who are like expert marketers, they say, John, your problem is you've never had to market. All I do is listen to the calls that come in and respond. Although I do my very best to serve my clients and always striving to learn more, to grow more, and to be an example of what I teach. And I think part of charisma, the power of attraction, is being authentic and desiring to be of service. Desiring to be of service is a kind of selfless dedication, which is also selfish. I want to be the best at being me. I mean, so there's not like selfless. It's just no self at all. It's just, I want to be the best I can be. And I want to be of service. Always, everything I do is I want to be of service. And in my own marriage, I always want to be in service. To my children, I want to be in service. And to myself, I want to be in service. Every day I practice meditation. I've done it for 50 years now. I started yoga at 3 years old, but then meditation became my parents taught it. So it was just a family thing. And I grew up with it. And then at 18, I became a meditator with the TM movement, which was very popular. And I'm a master meditator. I mean, I don't teach that so much because it's not what I need to learn, it's what I do. But always relationships was a challenge for me. And so how I overcame to understand my wife, actually, I became very successful taking time to understand women. A good message for most men: understand a woman and you'll be more successful.
Yes. Well, you and Bonnie were together how many years? 30?
We were together 34 years. I've known her for 40 years. She passed on last year.
I'm sorry to hear that. She's an amazing woman. So, but I just love how, and you really do. I mean, just seeing the two of you together and the love and the respect that you both had for each other. There are people, and we know them in the industry, that maybe have relationship books out, but are horrible in their relationships, have a hard time making their relationships work. And what I appreciate you as a teacher is that you, like you said, you do your research, you're authentic, you follow the calling, but you actually walk your talk too. So it was a treat for me to be around you and Bonnie and to be able to see that you really did live what you talk about and you teach.
Yeah, it was, Bonnie and I were very different, and understanding how to harmonize those differences created a great sex life. You know, Seinfeld did a funny show where he met the ideal woman who they were complete harmony all the time. She could finish all his jokes. And then after a few weeks, he was bored with her. He says, I want to be with somebody different from me. She's just like me. And so we were drawn together, and with similar values, the same values. You know, we all value service and love and spirituality and so forth. But it was the differences that also, when you can harmonize those differences through love and understanding and acceptance, you just have a great sex life. And I think that today, when people ignore their authenticity, they don't experience that they're different from their partner. If you started out with attraction, there's differences. Differences attract. And if you then have to compromise who you are in a relationship, you lose that passion, you lose that attraction to your partner. So we had it all the way to the end. It was so, so sweet. And, you know, as a husband, one of the sweetest things my wife said to me, besides "I love you," is, honey, the best part of our marriage is sex. That was really quite wonderful to hear that. You don't always hear that. And you hear like, love you, I love you, I love you. But I think, you know, sex is such an important part of couples learning how to stay together. Today, more than ever, people value sex and passion. The big question is, how do you keep the passion alive? And, you didn't hear that a long time ago. It was expected that passion went away. And so we had all these mixed messages, to talk about sex. It's like, oh, sex is not that important, but that's why we get together. You don't pick somebody you have no sexual attraction for. And how to sustain that is to recognize that sex is an expression of love. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And we're often not educated in how to provide the kind of support our partners need for that, both inside and outside the bedroom.
Well, that's what I loved about, hearing the two of you talk. And like I was even saying in the beginning, is that having this conversation, this open conversation, and really sharing that it's like you said, just because you're in a marriage for a long time, the sex doesn't have to go away. The passion doesn't have to go away. You get to continue to cultivate that and share that and make it a priority. And like you said, the places where you're trying to cut off from yourself to please your partner, you're cutting off yourself and you're cutting off that sexual flow.
What often women don't understand is that through sex, men open their hearts. What men don't understand is through good communication and romance, a woman's heart opens so she can enjoy sex. So it's a two-way street. It's and a little bit like if you go back to the old-fashioned war of the sexes, it's, he wants more sex, she wants more love. And today we have to be more responsible for learning how to adjust ourselves to the modern life because, as women are more independent, they're expressing more of their masculine qualities. They need help to come back to their feminine qualities. The feminine qualities are happiness, joy, peace, relaxation, and orgasm. This is like so critical to help, and men can help women get back to that place, and women can educate themselves in so many different ways today. The education's available. Most people don't know about it. And for men to sustain the connection with their partner, there are techniques men can learn as well. And you can go online, you can find lots of people talking about how to have orgasm without ejaculating. When men ejaculate, you will have a surge of estrogen. Now, when estrogen goes up in men, their testosterone goes down. And that's why there's this recovery period. And so when a man has high estrogen, he'll tend to pull away for a while. There'll be a disconnect. And then he'll come back. Okay, his testosterone will rebuild and he'll come back. So part of sustaining desire is differences, for sure. We talked about that. But another part is even in the bedroom, there are new skills we can learn. The Chinese talked about them, and the Taoists of sexuality, India, they talk about it in terms of religious terms, tantra, so forth. It doesn't have to be all that spirituality and religiousness with it. It's simply learning to pace yourself in sex and techniques that men can learn so that they can extend the sexual play, and they can also not always culminate in ejaculation. That increases his desire. When men do not ejaculate, the body says, I got a job to do. How do I get in there again? So it sustains attraction, and it also helps women build up their sexual tension so they can be more responsive in the bedroom.
So it's almost like what is that? The instant gratification, delay the instant gratification.
It's exactly right. And that's our whole society. We've become so impulsive. We have everything now. I want it now. I can get it now, and so forth. We've lost that ability to be patient. But always in the bedroom, traditionally, Western men were very quick. We just didn't understand the differences. Now we understand women are slow to rise quite often and slow to settle down. If treated the right way, they can be multi-orgasmic, and men can also learn to be multi-orgasmic as well. These are like learning new skills, and we need good education for that.
I love having sex talks with you. They're awesome. I always love listening to you. So if someone wanted to learn more from you, John, where would they be able to go and do that to really like say, okay, I'm really resonating with what he's saying. How do I learn more? Where do they go from that?
Well, they can go to marsvenus.com. I mean, there's just every day there's a different hour talk by me at marsvenus.com. I have hundreds of them. A few years ago, I just sat in front of my computer every day and talked for an hour. So I've got all these different subjects from my mini books. Also, I've got different nutritional products like for libido, lowering stress for women, these are like really critical to have a great sex life, as well as good communication. You know, when you're stressed out, it's hard to remember how to communicate. What happens is your energy goes to the back part of the brain, fight or flight. You forget everything up here, which is the capacity to change your behavior, change your responses, have empathy, compassion, motivation to be of service. All that comes from the front part of the brain. And when we're in that a stress mode, fight or flight mode, blood flow literally stops there. So there are things, there are certain minerals you can take. Lithium orotate is probably the cheapest cheapest supplement online. It's $8 or something for a 3-month supply at my website. And nobody will promote it because you can't make any money, but it's probably it's low dose lithium orotate will help relax, keep the brain from looping, lower stress levels. There's libido things. Tonkat Ali is an amazing supplement to help increase men's libido, as well as insights on how to bring it back up. You know, men lose their interest after a while. And just as women lose the connection with their partners. This has a lot to do with hormonal imbalance. My most recent work is all about how men and women's hormones are different, how relationships can bring us back into hormonal balance, as opposed to depending on taking hormones, which can be very helpful, but you can also generate it within yourself if you have the right communication skills. So that's in my new work called Beyond Mars and Venus, which is the hormonal foundation of our differences that we can understand better. So that's marsvenus.com. A lot of stuff there.
Awesome. I love it. So I want to close by telling you this, because I don't even know if you remember this, but it was one of my first TLC meetings, and I was there with, we were just out of break, and Dave Asbury was there, and he and I gave each other a hug. Dave Asbury from Bulletproof, for those of you that don't know who he is, amazing guy. And John, you were right there, and he said to us, that's not a hug. And we kind of looked at each other like, well, that felt like a hug to us, you know? And we got coached by no other than the amazing John Gray, literally how to give each other a hug. And he and I talk about that moment all the time, because after we took your tutelage, after you showed us what to do, and even like how long to do it, he's like, you were telling us you don't want to go too long, but we had this connection. And it was from that moment that he and I developed a deeper sense of each other. And so I really appreciated that moment. And Dave, I just wanted you to know that Dave and I talk about that. So would you share just your wisdom on, being able to reconnect with giving somebody a hug, whether it's your kids or your husband or your wife or a friend?
Yeah. I talked about the importance of sex. I hold hugs as just as important, as radical as that might seem. Every morning, my wife and I, the first time I'd see her in the morning, sometimes she got up early or whatever, is give her a hug. And that hug was so important, always to connect us on comings and goings. When I'd leave for work or she'd leave for work, a hug. Coming back, I find her first. It's sort of the man's role is to pursue. So the man should find her, initiate the hug. The woman can respond in the hug, but she shouldn't have to run after it. The man should run after it. And always, I do at least 4 hugs a day. Up, say good morning, say goodbye, return home, say goodnight. Always those hugs. They're just so important to reconnect. And in the hug, at least 3 seconds. That's a 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. And sometimes you can go a little longer. And ideally, with a man and woman, the man wraps his arms around the woman, so the woman's on the inside. So he's surrounding her. Women want to feel the safety of a man's energy around her. So it's a nice, gentle squeeze. And the man should always be giving a little bit more and the woman responding. So as he gives, she's like the moon and responds back. And as he feels that response, he will want to give more. So he can continue to squeeze as she reflects back. And so it's like this connecting of I'm giving to you, you're giving back to me. It's a reset, because women, when they're out of balance, they're giving to get rather than giving in response to receiving. That is the female vulnerability. And men's vulnerability, our challenge is we will tend to receive and then give back. So we're waiting to receive, then we'll give out, as opposed to selflessly giving and then getting it back. That's the going out to receive in. Whereas when women go out to receive in, they get caught in all the expectations and the scorekeeping and the resentments. I give more, I'm not getting. Whereas for men, if you give them more than they're giving, men become lazy. If women give more than they're getting, they feel resentful. So this is like a subtle dynamic that without even knowing all that, you're resetting this dynamic of connection by the man giving and the woman responding back and feeling the gratitude and him feeling the love. One of the hugs always, I would then say, I love you. And about 1 out of 8, I would give an extra little squeeze down south to let her know that you're so beautiful, but not all the time. It's a random kind of an extra thing. You always have to be reminded of that. But I just think that hugging, it's the non-sexual affection is so important to increase oxytocin. If it's a sexual affection, it doesn't increase oxytocin. Sex lowers oxytocin. Everybody misunderstands this. We know that oxytocin is responsible for women's sexual response, but when they have climax, they actually lose their oxytocin, which is what oxytocin does biologically is it lowers her testosterone to increase her estrogen. Estrogen is what makes women sexually responsive. So a hug, a non-sexual hug, is constantly reinforcing the oxytocin of safety, connection, caring, that keeps her estrogen levels up to where they need to be. And then at appropriate times, her estrogen will give her the sexual response. But as she's giving the sexual response, she actually depletes herself of oxytocin, which is why after sex, women will often want to, not all women, not always, but they want to cuddle and be close. And that is actually to rebuild the oxytocin that they just left, that they just lost. Women that don't feel a need to connect often are women who don't even make a lot of oxytocin, so they're not missing it. So they didn't release a lot of it. But when a woman has high estrogen, high orgasmic experience, she's going to deplete herself of that, the oxytocin. And if she needs to then come back to her estrogen, her feminine energy, she'll want to cuddle more and give more. Whereas for men, well, one of the things, oxytocin for both men and women, it lowers testosterone. So when a man has a lot of oxytocin after sex, he has a surge of oxytocin, he'll tend to want to pull away to the extent that he needs to rebuild his testosterone. If he doesn't ejaculate, but learns to have the little orgasm before the ejaculation. See, they're not the same thing. If you study it, a man has to become aware the orgasm is starting to happen before the ejaculation. So you catch it at that moment and then stop. And you keep learning that there's a difference between the orgasm, which is something that goes off in your brain, telling you to keep going to make babies. So if you don't want to make babies, you just get to enjoy. You slow it down and you build it and you come back up, and you slow it down, you build it and come back up. This is called edging. And I'm not the only one who teaches this. It's all over the internet if people want to start learning how to orgasm without ejaculating. But I just think that knowledge is so critical for couples today, just in terms of how to make sure your sex life is sustained, because it will, I mean, think about it. We know in psychology, there's something called a conditioned response. All right. It's the basic thing of psychology is conditioned response. If I have an experience and something happens, then next time I'm going to anticipate that experience. Okay. That's just life. Well, if every time I have sex with my wife, my energy is depleted, I now begin, and my testosterone goes down. I now link in connecting with my wife, testosterone going down, and so men lose interest in their partners. If a man every time pulls away, radically pulls away, needs days to recover from sex, a woman's going to associate opening up to her most vulnerable self and him pulling away. So after a while, I'm not going to open up because it's painful to have somebody pull away when you're wide open. So to avoid those experiences, we just gradually shut down. It's a conditioned response. So you can avoid that. It's not to give up ejaculating. It's just not to do it all the time. Now I'm in my 60s. So, if I want to live long, I rarely ever ejaculate. Don't need to. That's a vital force, life force. Instead of making a baby, I want to keep myself young and healthy.
Wow. I feel like I'm in Napa having a dinner conversation with you again. Like, this is what it was like. I'm like, we're actually talking about sex and ejaculation at dinner. So like, I want more, like, I want to learn more about it. So you're amazing. You're so amazing. I'm so grateful that I get to walk on the planet with you at this time and learn from you, and, you know, and learn the hugs from you and just be in your presence. So thank you so much.
Oh, my heart's open to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. So everybody go to Mars. It's marsandvenus.com,
No,
right?
just marsvenus.com.
marsvenus.com, and go, and you'll have hours and hours and hours of information with John, and check out the supplements that John was talking about if you felt that that was something that you need support in. So we'll put the link to John's website right under the video. And please let us know what you're taking away from this conversation. I know it was just filled with so many different nuggets and probably things that you're going to want to go research yourself. So leave us a comment and let us know what you're taking away, and have an amazing week, everyone. Thank you so much, John.
Thanks again.
Thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought. Leave me a comment below, and be sure to share and tag your friends. And be sure to check out my other videos here and on this site.